Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Friday reading. I hope I'm coming through loud and clear. I am having some technical difficulties with Rockfin on the back end, so you'll just have to bear with me for 1 minute um, while I reload the screen up to my Rockfin account. I have no idea why that happened, but it keeps glitching, which is really rare because that never happened. Um, Today is January 24th, and I'm going to read something that I wrote yesterday. Uh, what is today? Friday reading. I have to reset the Rockfin live stream because it kept glitching, so I can't do two things at once. Um, I'll have to change the title later. Um, so I apologize for the interruption here. Let's see if I can get that going. Um, I hope everyone's doing okay. We're covered in snow over here. It's starting to melt, which is good. Um, but yeah, it's really odd to be you know to be covered in snow when you move to the Gulf Coast to get away from snow. So let me make sure that everything's going smoothly with the other platforms that I'm running on right now. Sorry, you guys, but this is what happens when you go live. Things don't always go exactly the way that they're supposed to. Okay, so it seems like YouTube is doing good. If you guys get a chance, share this because, as you know, we've abandoned Facebook. We've exited off the Facebook platform and off all Meta brands. And I'm thinking about, ending things with Twitter as well, and other social media platforms that I just feel that they are. They're not. I just feel right now that social media is not a good place. Um, yeah, it looks like my Rockfin account. I'm not sure what's going on with it. Um, so maybe what I'll have to do is just live stream the Friday reading onto Rumble and YouTube and deal with Rockfin later. Um, yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. It's just stuck in the spinning wheel of death, like I like to call it. So we'll see what happens. So I'm not going to worry about it. Uh, Speaking of Rockfin, um, sound dropped out. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, let me say thank you for letting me know. Um, all right. Am I on now? Oh my gosh. Have I been talking for 5 minutes and you guys haven't even been hearing me? I'm so sorry about that. We've had a lot going on over the last couple of days. As you know, we had um, uncharacteristically cold weather. We were stuck in a frozen tundra for the better part of a week. We sort of went through. The South is sort of going through its own great reset, which is why um, I've titled this live stream. Uh, um, the South Great Reset, whatever. You'll see what I wrote in a minute. So let me start from the beginning. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Thank goodness for you. Usually you can't watch me live, because you have a job and you catch me on the replay. And for you to log in and say, "Hey, your sound is out." Oh, thank you so much for that. Who knows how long I would have gone without my microphone on. JP did tell me before he went into his meeting, um, your microphone is not on. Make sure you turn it on." So, and of course, I forgot. So, thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. So, let me go back over to Rockfin and see if I can somehow um, get this to work. It could have been that the sound was off, which is why it wasn't live streaming. So let me see if I can if I'm even live on Rockfin right now. Um, we'll find out. Yes, I am. So good. All right. And may as well check out Rumble while we're at it. Since we're looking at YouTube and we're looking at Rockfin, we may as well look at Rumble. Yes. All right. I'm doing good. I think I'm up and running now. Okay. Um, so as you know, the South was hit, and well, you may not know, the South was hit dramatically, and it was uncharacteristic. It was totally surreal, and I talk a lot about that in the piece that I'm about ready to read. But before I go into that, I want to talk about my disappointment in social media. Um, Obviously, with the new administration coming in, there are a lot of talking points and there are a lot of things that are really grabbing people's attention, especially the Larry Ellison and Sam Altman sideshow, I like to call it. So basically, Larry Ellison and Sam Altman are a couple of big time tech dudes. Larry Ellison being the one individual that basically disrupted a major downtown corridor in San Francisco many, many years ago with the build out of his company Oracle. So Larry Ellison and Sam Altman were introduced by Trump himself. I think the day of the storm, and here in the South. And basically, he said, "Yippity doo dah! $500 billion is going to go towards mRNA vaccines and AI," as I've been warning about on this platform for a while. So a lot of people on social media basically took that talking point and ran with it, and it's been the only thing that anyone is talking about for the last couple of days, which is really disappointing because there are other things going on that are affecting people in very real ways, like what we're experiencing in the South. So rather than focus on the thing that all of social media is distracted with, I'm going to focus on in my piece, I'm going to focus on the real. I'm going to focus on what's really happening, like that's palpable in our lives. And these are weather events that affect economies and affect people's lives in very personal ways. The I'm just going to make a blanket statement. For years, I was sort of on the fence about social media. I originally thought, well, I guess it's a good thing. People can connect with people that they don't normally have an opportunity to connect with. People can find, similar backgrounds or worldviews and connect with each other no matter where they are in the world. I guess that's a good thing. Or if people get excited about like the food they eat, maybe they could take a picture and post it on social media. Like Instagram is really good for that. Facebook is really good for checking into your local cafe or your local restaurant. It gives them some visibility, and then it improves their business. So I'm like, okay, um, I guess it's a good thing. And then I sort of like as time went on and I got older and I started to see that social media was actually changing behavior in the real world, I backed away from my original position on it, which was, I guess it's a good thing, to, well, maybe it's not so great for everybody. Maybe some people shouldn't be on social media. And I'm talking about, across the board. I'm talking about, from Facebook to TikTok to Instagram to Truth Social to Twitter, and any other and I hear that there's a new platform being developed for Generation Z that will most likely I can almost guarantee you that that platform that is being built for Generation Z right now is going to be all about AI, artificial intelligence, and there will be no differentiation between what's real and what's not. And so this is where we are, I think, in general with social media. And it's so dangerous. It's really just hijacking emotions. It's hijacking people's lives. People spend way too much time on it. And then there are the influencers, whether they are, designed to influence users or whether they are accidentally influencing users. There are the useful idiots and the useful influencers out there that tend to pull the conversation in certain directions and keep it off of the topics that you really should be focusing on. So that's where I come in, I guess. I'm trying really hard to remain calm throughout this ordeal. But going to social media and checking in on Twitter occasionally, and knowing, instinctively just knowing that Facebook is just awash with stories that are directing you away from what's important. It's frustrating, and I just want to walk away from everything, but I feel like I have something valuable to say, and I feel like I have something valuable to contribute to the world. I've been encouraged to continue writing. I've been encouraged to continue doing these Friday broadcasts, even when there are days like today where I just didn't feel like I could find the energy or the reason to even come on here and say anything. I am like a little teeny tiny little itty bitty little goldfish bubble in this sea of really loud voices that are extraordinarily funded. And I'm talking about alternative voices that have funding, they can travel, and I don't have that. So, you know, some of us are just not heard. And I think it's because we're not supposed to be heard. Because when I say things like get the fuck off social media and start looking at what's going on in the real world and start making changes autonomously, walk away from the government, um, maybe that's not the most popular thing to say. So, but whatever, I am what I am, right? So I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and hopefully it reaches some people. But let me go ahead and share the screen and show you the piece that I've written that I have not yet shared publicly. There it is. Friday reading, The New Ice Age Resets the South. All right. So if you're joining on Rockfin, the title is a little bit different because apparently me being muted for the first 5 minutes of the broadcast, Rockfin wouldn't let me go live because I was muted, but they didn't tell me I was muted. So maybe their interface designers need to fix that, so that those of us who do podcasts can have the system tell us, "Hey, look, we can't let you go live yet because you're muted." And then I'd be like, "Oh, I got to change my microphone." So then I would know. All right, but thank you for Kevin. Thank you so much for telling me. All right. So Friday reading, The New Ice Age Resets the South. Now, this is going to be a difficult read. It's going to be really hard for me to read it. It might be hard for you to hear it. So please just stay with me. JP is going to join in about half an hour or so. So let's get to it. Friday reading, The New Ice Age Resets the South. Follow along. The snowstorm that halted regions in 4 states isn't getting any coverage by the mainstream media or your favorite blue checker. I like to call them blue checkers. They're influencers. I can guarantee you that some of your favorite people on Facebook aren't covering this. Instead, they're covering the Sam Altman uh, um, Sam Altman, his name has escaped me. Oh, Larry Ellison show and the whole mRNA vaccine thing. Before I begin the reading, though, that's a picture of the ocean, by the way, which is a 15-minute walk from my house. I'm just letting you know that we're in a frozen tundra. Let me bring myself back up because I want to say some. Um, I want to say something about choice and the vaccines and everything like that. This is really controversial, and you'll, as I read through my piece, you'll understand why I'm coming from this position. But I'm going to try to say it as delicately as possible without offending people. The worst thing that ever happened to anybody who refused to get a vaccine was they either lost their job or they couldn't get a job that they needed. And that was a temporary setback in their lives. Since then, things are back to normal and they can go back to living their normal life. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think it's, if you were faced with going to the doctor's office and the nurse holds up a needle like this, you can back away. You can say, "Oh, I can't do a needle. No, I'm not going to do the needle. Nope, 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 nobody, nope, nope. I'm not doing the needle." It's so much, it's really easy to remove your body from, a situation where you might have to have an intervention of that, or an intervention is recommended for you. You can choose not to get a shot. You can choose not to go through the toxic, poisonous treatment that is chemotherapy. You can choose not to do these experimental mRNAs, right? You still grasp the concept of choice during this process, right? Like you still have you haven't collapsed into cognitive decline yet, right? So you still do have a choice. You still get it. You can choose not to wear a mask. Whatever it is that you choose to do with your body, um, is still it's still relevant in your life. You can still do it. The hardest thing to do, though, is to get away from this. This is more dangerous, and all of the apps that are loaded on it and social media is more dangerous and presents the lack of choice in your life more than not taking a shot. It is virtually impossible for people to get off of social media. It is it is it is a struggle, an incredible struggle for some reason with human beings. The addictive entrapment, the algorithms, the dopamine hits, the need to like just unleash your thoughts and your desires and your anger and your ire onto places like TikTok or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, any of the social media platforms. That becomes a feedback loop that you need to be a part of, and it is really hard for people to get off of it. And they've made it even harder because they're incentivizing and rewarding people for being on these platforms and creating these dopamine hits and these dopamine strains into users, without users even being aware of it or even realizing it. And so not only do they create the emotional attachment that you have on social media, but now they've created actual incentivizing. You can get incentivized through money. You can get incentivized through, cryptocurrency. You can get incentivized through like ads and being paid through ads and things like that, and sponsorships. So they're really rewarding people who spend a lot of time on social media and have made it their life goal to become influencers on social media. And it's impossible to get off of it. Um, and that's what really scares me is that that choice was never given to anyone. The choice to not take a shot or do an intervention through the medical establishment, that was an easy choice. That's easy. But you were never really given a choice with social media. It was curated out of a military program and designed to change your behavior and change you as a human. And so earlier on, when I was broadcasting and I said, well, I started my thoughts around social media thinking that maybe it was a good thing. No, it's nothing but bad. I don't see any benefit to it at all. I don't see any good thing coming out of social media at all. And that's why so many people who are successful in business and successful in their careers have very limited, if any, social media um, uh, footprint at all. So, there's something to that, right? Now, some people need social media in order to um, learn things. They belong to groups. If you have if you're in a specialized field, or you're in a particular part of the country and you're a gardener and you want to know what other local gardeners are doing, there are Facebook groups, there are Instagram groups that people have created where they share their thoughts around the different ways to garden. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a better way, right? Why not a gardening club at your local community center? I don't know. Why can't we go back to the old ways, right? Okay, so let me get back to the piece that I wrote. That is Biloxi Beach. That is a beach that is usually sugar white sand with beautiful blue water. And I just felt that this image was so striking, so that's why I used it as the captured image for my piece. While the hysterical blue checkers and influencers on social media pick apart Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and scream and holler about the Trump administration supporting mRNA vaccines being taught by AI to detect precancer, I have been trapped in my home since Tuesday, experiencing the second lockdown of my life. And I am not alone. Hundreds of thousands of residents, business owners, lawmakers, industry leaders, working class, elderly, and children have also experienced this same lockdown. This experience has reminded me that the mundane will always be ignored in favor of the salacious and the absurd. Speaking of the absurd, Sam Altman and Larry Ellison are placed out in front for the influencers on social media to pick apart and run down rabbit holes of nonsense and gibberish in the same way Bill Gates was, during the pandemic, the early days of the pandemic. It's the exact same playbook, wasting time throwing virtual pies in the faces of billionaires while the real issues go ignored. These ineffective parrots and useful agents, or idiots, designed by the tech establishment, live all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and even some of the lesser known platforms like Rumble and Truth Social. So here I am, the only one, once again, talking about the thing that actually matters. Today, right now. As of today, Thursday, January 23rd. So I wrote this yesterday, keep in mind, with the intention of reading it out loud today. As of today, Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, all major highways leading out of my neighborhood are closed. No grocery stores in regions that pepper Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi have been supplied. All supply chains have been cut off. The only thing most of the hundreds of thousands of us who have been cut off from the world do have is heat and access to the internet. And that's it. That's all we have. Even if I wanted to throw on some boots and trudge through the snow to go get some lunch at my local diner or even hit a Waffle House because the roads are closed and that's the only way I could get there, I can't. I can't because all diners, restaurants, grocery stores, gas stations, cafes, gyms, community centers, shops, big box stores like Target or Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot, they're all closed. Well, maybe the Waffle House is open. Billions of dollars worth of business and what makes the region of the country sustain itself has come to a crashing halt. And this will have a lasting and devastating effect on the South. Since Monday was a holiday, we haven't had any mail deliveries since last Saturday. It's now Thursday, and I have not seen our mailman since last Saturday. None of the delivery services are running either. No Amazon, no UPS, no FedEx, no DHL. And of course, no Uber and no Lyft. When a region or multiple regions have been slammed down in their capacity to run businesses from the small family owned coffee shop or little boutique store on the corner or the community run hardware store to the larger corporate stores, when they have all been closed for about a week solid, it takes months, maybe even years to recover from the loss. Billions of dollars in revenue and the supply and demand system that feeds our markets and our way of life has been interrupted. They have been slammed shut, and this will have a devastating impact on economies in the long run. The South, in essence, is going through a massive great reset, and not one goddamn person is talking about it and describing it as it is. The resetters use weather warfare programs to devastate economies and reduce quality of life in order to replace the old life with whatever the new life they want to install it with is. It's typically to build out infrastructure no one wanted, or to build out toxic machinery or plants that no one wanted, or to install infrastructure like mines or warehouses that house toxic batteries, which no one wanted. Using weather warfare to roll over and flatten the people who are openly telling the resetters that they don't want whatever is planned is a way to kill, silence, and shut down any dissent. We know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. You know, weather is now a weapon. You know that, right? I just want to pause here for a minute and remind people that weather is no longer a natural occurrence. It hasn't been for a while. I think Katrina was the trial balloon. Weather is a tactic. It is a way to kill and silence and shut down dissent. It's a way to keep people in their homes trapped, like I've been all week. We saw this with Katrina, which the South is still recovering from 20 years later. And we saw this with Hurricane Helene, where properties have been disappeared and houses were pushed by terrifying and deadly mudslides downriver and then destroyed. And even if they did manage to survive the Great Flood of Appalachia, they were condemned, and now people are now living in the hollers of freezing Appalachia in tents when they once had housing. Politically, Helene has also changed property lines and county zoning, which allows for non devastated regions to qualify for government assistance, while the devastated regions and the people in them are left with nothing. These weaponized weather programs can change the political landscape, in other words, as well as the actual landscape on which we stand. The timing of winter snowstorm Enzo, that's what they're calling it here in the South, the snowstorm that we've had that no one is talking about. The timing of winter snowstorm Enzo is coordinated and absolutely done on purpose. It tracks with the Trump inauguration needing to be indoors. Weather warfare programs aren't an exact science, so this should come as no surprise. I mentioned the timing of this unbelievable winter freeze that has engulfed a part of the country that simply doesn't get snow. And this is where I get very personal, so it might be difficult to read and it might be difficult to listen. I sit in this frozen tundra today, alienated from my sense of reality. The entire spectacle seems surreal. No, it actually seems unreal and matches the absurd yet frank surrealism of my dreams. We're living in a dream we never asked for. We moved here to get away from the snow, after a brief stint in Pittsburgh. And now we are here, trapped inside our house just minutes from the beach, watching the snow pile up over the sand that typically scatters among the 8 live oaks that surround our property. This simply doesn't feel real, and I keep blinking, wondering when it's going to go away. The cold is brutal. You would think because it's rare and a once in 3 lifetimes event that the cold wouldn't reach the depths that it has. My joints, muscles, and bones feel like they are being seared in half. I do have an autoimmune illness and take great care through aquafit classes, warm water treatments, and various other natural or homeopathic treatments. I can typically keep the pain at bay and work on my range of motion. But today, with each movement, the pain is shooting mercilessly throughout my body. I can honestly say I felt nothing like this. Whatever is in the weather, whatever has been sprinkled into this atmosphere without our consent, whatever elements or metals have crystallized in the dampness or the snow was designed to kill me, or at the very least, greatly reduce my quality of life. I know I am not personally targeted, but I feel personally targeted, especially as I watch my neighbors who don't struggle with autoimmune illness or chronic inflammation and pain running around making snow angels, doing donuts with their bicycles, and having the time of their life in this rare, extraordinary weather event. I don't know if you recall, but I've mentioned in various broadcasts and blog pieces and podcasts with my husband that the way we are governed or managed permanently now and the way states' economies function is through a state of emergency. All 4 governors, Ivey of Alabama, DeSantis of Florida, Landry in Louisiana, and Reeves in Mississippi, have issued a state of emergency, and this means a funding stream is opened, and that's how our services and agencies can continue. Through interstate compact regions and the states within those regions, governors will allocate one source of funding toward emergency situations and decide where the bulk of the funding will go. You see, no longer is Mississippi just for Mississippi's sake. Are you kidding me? We just had a power outage. Mississippi shares an interest in Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida, and maybe even a handful of other southern states in the compact. All right, so I just want to check in and make sure that you guys are still with me. We are having flickering power outages, which is quite strange because even during the height of the snowstorm, we did not have power outages. So let me make sure. Okay, good. Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? Okay. I'm almost done and then you can join, okay? My suspicion is that the reason why interstate compacts are how the country is managed and now why the country is referred to as regions as opposed to individual states is because certain systems needed a timeout, so to speak, so that a bigger funding project in that particular region could move forward and have more access to more funding. What better way to halt necessary systems and quality of life amenities then cut off the cost of those amenities or necessary components of life, like mail delivery, access to open roads, or access to basic shopping necessities, or schools or hospitals, than to unleash something like Winter Storm Enzo, which forces all of these necessary components of life to come to a crashing halt. Except this time, I think Winter Storm Enzo was unleashed on all 4 states within this southern region in order to put one of the largest, most daring projects to a halt. Perhaps this project will move forward anyway, but I imagine for now, the funding for the region must be allocated to take care of alleged emergency situations as a result of Enzo, whether those emergencies exist or not. So let me pause right here and remind you that we are in a constant state of emergency. One of the first things that Trump said was that he was announcing a state of emergency for the border. You know what that means? That means that millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not maybe $1 billion or more dollars will be allocated towards border patrol. And you think that that's a good thing, especially if you're against like immigration and stuff. But actually, it's for AI and it's for surveillance software. It has nothing to do with actually, keeping the border safe. It's all about the technology that they want to install there. And they can only get that funding. The tech companies can only get that funding if the president announces an emergency. So whether there's an emergency or not, okay. First of all, there's no emergency here in the South. There it was a little bit of snow. The roads are a little bit slippery, but there was no reason for the governors to announce a state of emergency. The only reason they did was because they were being leaned on probably by, infrastructure mafia to get more money, you know. The planning committees for some of these civic infrastructure plans, they want bigger paychecks. So it doesn't have anything to do with fixing the roads. Oh, we got to fix the roads. No, you don't. There is no emergency. But as long as a governor states that there's an emergency, we saw this with COVID. As long as they state that there's an emergency, then suddenly the funding stream gets opened up and federal funding can go right into the pockets of more mafia, right? And the people don't benefit from any of this. Okay, so there is this one project happening in Louisiana, which I felt was important to talk about. The project is called the Maurepas Swamp Project, and it's been approved, and $130 million in funding was, or possibly still is, scheduled to begin for its construction, in addition to an earlier $14 million to support planning, engineering, and design. The Maurepas Swamp Project is one of the two largest projects the Restore Council has funded to date, the other being the Huma Navigation Canal Lock in Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. What this project entails is a 2,000 cubic feet per second freshwater diversion located on the east bank of the Mississippi River in St. John the Baptist Parish, just west of Garyville, Louisiana. The project will reconnect the Mississippi River to the Maurepas Swamp and revitalize over 45,000 acres with freshwater, sediment, and nutrients to nourish one of Louisiana's largest and last remaining coastal freshwater swamps. Essentially, what the planners are doing is rerouting the Mississippi River into areas of Louisiana that have the potential to be one of the most lucrative destinations in the South, quite possibly the country. Because the Mississippi River is the lifeblood of our nation when it comes to supplying the country with its goods, there's always grumbling and pushback when project planners want to do anything with it at all. And rerouting a portion of it to restore an ecosystem and bring fresh water to the Maurepas Swamp could have the potential to impact the Father of Waters. But I personally don't think so. To better understand the intrinsic value and the power the Mississippi River has on our country, let's watch this 7-minute clip from a 40-minute video I downloaded. Okay, you guys ready to sit back? It's actually an 8-minute clip, so I will play it here and let you watch it. If it plays. Okay. Shoot. Let me see. If I can play it. I can't play it without publishing the piece. So bear with me while I publish the piece. Sorry for all the interruptions, but the anticipation is amazing. Okay, so this is our Substack page. All right, so let's get back into it. Are you following along here? Good. Oops, that's not right. Why can't I get into it? This is silly. Okay, so let me just go home. Usually I can just navigate this thing with my eyes closed, but for whatever reason, today is one of those days, right? You can see all of my my $0. Oh, look, I made $50. That's good. That was last year, so thank you to that person who helped me with that. Let's go to the where is it? Wow, this is weird. I can't find it. That's the announcement for today's event. Okay, you guys are just gonna have to bear with me for 1 minute, okay? I am gonna have to find this because I just published the piece. Or did I? I've actually never experienced this with Substack before, so this is really weird. Any Substack aficionados out there, any people who are familiar with Substack. Okay, it's still unpublished. That's weird. Let me see if I can play the piece. Nope. Okay, so I thought I hit publish now. Your post is live, it says, so that's good. Nope, it's still taking me to that weird. Yeah, I don't know. Well, let me see if I can find it another way. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I lost the whole piece. I don't know what happened, and I know I published it, and I don't know what happened. Usually when I publish on Substack, we get a notification, and for some reason, it's not. It's in my draft still, so it says unpublished. So the new Ice Age resets the South. Here it is. So I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying. JP's here trying to help me. You want to?
Go down to the video itself.
Yeah, let me see if I can do it this way. No.
Go down to the video and use the command button and click on it.
Yeah, it's not.
Try the option. Try the command button.
Command?
Try the option button.
Yeah.
Try the control button.
Yeah, I think what I need to do is just, so it says right here, publish now. That says publish now, right?
Yeah.
So why isn't it? And this is to everyone. This is like the third time I've done this. Publish. And it says your post is live. This keeps coming up.
Copy the link and paste it into the tab.
And I get this instead, which is not what I'm reading. Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's like
It takes you to another place.
it took me to, so I can find the piece that I want to, and then I can continue reading it, and I'll just I can't spell. Okay, so Mike Benz had also downloaded the thing that I want you guys to learn about the Mississippi River. Here it is. Okay, so I'm gonna share that screen. All right, and then I'm gonna try to get back into the piece and finish reading it. Okay, can you guys see that? All right, good. All right, so let me...
The core geographic reason of America's global power and the core of the North American continent itself is almost certainly the Mississippi River, and the vast basin that surrounds it, wedged in between the high Rocky Mountains in the west and the low Appalachian Mountains in the east, interconnecting with the Illinois, Ohio, Tennessee, Red, Arkansas, and Missouri rivers as well. Most of the tributary rivers that feed into this enormous system, spanning 1/3 of the entire continent, begin at relatively low elevations, which effectively means that the majority of the basin's rivers are calm and absent of any obstacles like rapids, and have therefore been easily navigable for thousands of years without the need for any advanced technology, expensive development, or infrastructure. The most important thing to understand about the Mississippi River itself is that it is the longest navigable river in the world, meaning that since time immemorial, anyone could essentially sail a boat carrying supplies or people from the Gulf of Mexico into the Mississippi's mouth and up more than 3,000 kilometers deep into the North American interior before hitting the river's only natural waterfall here, which, without coincidence, is exactly where the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul was settled. The navigable section of the Mississippi River from these waterfalls down to the delta in the Gulf of Mexico is more than 3 times the length of the Rhine in Europe, and 1/3 longer than even the Danube, Europe's second longest river. Navigable rivers like the Mississippi or the Rhine are tremendously valuable to generating economic activity because they are substantially cheaper to use as transportation of goods and people than land-based infrastructure. Roads and railways require not only high initial costs to construct, but high ongoing maintenance costs to keep them functioning and running as well. Whereas rivers are already there and are basically just free to use. The only costs involve creating ports and boats to carry stuff up and down them. And as a result of that, shipping products by water as opposed to land is anywhere from 10 to 30 times less expensive in the modern 21st century era, and civilizations who have more navigable rivers will be able to retain substantially higher amounts of profits from all the capital that they'll be saving on transportation costs. This fact instantly makes the Mississippi River, as the longest navigable river in the world, tremendously economically valuable to anybody who controls it. Farms and factories built along or nearby the 3,000 kilometers of its banks between the Delta and the Gulf of Mexico and the waterfalls at Minneapolis-St. Paul are capable of cheaply exporting their products further downstream and out into the world ocean toward global markets. But the Mississippi River itself is only the main stem of the overall greater network of navigable rivers found across the greater Mississippi Basin, granting settlements as deep into the interior of North America as Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Minneapolis, Chicago, Sioux City, St. Louis, Memphis, Muskogee, Shreveport, and more to effectively become oceanic ports. all capable of exporting their various products cheaply down the Mississippi River network towards the Gulf of Mexico. But it isn't just this uniquely vast system of internally navigable rivers within North America that give this continent such an advantage to commerce. It's also the fact that around much of North America exists another highly unique geographic feature that cannot be found anywhere else in anywhere near such a useful pattern. The many, many barrier islands that exist in an almost continuously uninterrupted chain for more than 4,800 kilometers, around 3/4 of the US Gulf and East coasts. From the southernmost tip of Texas, where the Rio Grande empties into the Gulf, up to the Chesapeake Bay that harbors Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. In effect, these countless low and flat islands have transformed what would otherwise be 4,800 kilometers of exposed coastline into a network of protected, shielded bays that can be effectively utilized as a sort of oceanic river, relatively navigable all the way from Brownsville, Texas to Baltimore, Maryland. And since the delta of the Mississippi River empties out directly into this further navigable network, it means that goods have been able to be cheaply, reliably, and quickly transported from all throughout the North American interior to all across the Gulf and East coasts now for hundreds of years. When collectively added together, the internal rivers of the Mississippi Basin and this external intracoastal waterway wrapping around the Gulf and East coasts account for nearly 25,000 kilometers of combined navigable waterways, which is not only more than the rest of North America combined, but more than the rest of the entire planet combined. The end result is the greatest natural transportation system to be found anywhere in the world. An enormous network of freely available riverine superhighways that causes 90% of the lower continental 48 United States to be within just 240 kilometers of an easily navigable waterway. And it was all just effectively given to the United States more than 2 centuries ago, back in 1803, when the French decided to sell all of it for about $340 million in today's currency valuation. And then, the power that this system of natural navigation offers the United States is even further exacerbated when you consider that it spans across what also just so happens to be the largest contiguous stretch of arable farmland on the planet as well, the American Midwest. The westernmost portion of the Midwest, located within the rain shadow cast by the towering Rocky Mountains of the continent, is dry but temperate and perfect for growing wheat like Ukraine and southern Russia, while the central portion is temperate and humid, perfect for growing corn and soybeans. Today, an area more than twice the size of France is under till within the Midwest alone. And as a result, this region produces nearly a third of the entire planet's supply of corn and soybeans, and more than $150 billion worth of agricultural produce overall per year. And all of this enormous agricultural land happens to also roughly overlap with the world's largest network of easily navigable rivers. It is a perfect natural recipe for an agricultural superpower to develop from. And when further considering the fact that the Intracoastal Waterway Network further services the transportation needs of everything from Texas to Maryland, the Columbia and Snake Rivers flow through the agricultural zones of the Pacific Northwest, and the San Francisco Bay and Sacramento River help out within the Central Valley of California, you can quickly see that with very few exceptions, the vast majority of all of America's agricultural regions are within just 240 kilometers of a navigable waterway to the ocean, enabling food grown across the rural parts of the continent to easily and cheaply be transported to the same continent's urban population centers in a way that simply no other continent on the Earth could ever match.
Okay, so I hope that gave you some indication of the importance and the value of the Mississippi River. This video, this short 8-minute segment comes from a longer 40-minute video, and I apologize for the earlier technical difficulties, but You did watch it. So let's get back to the piece I wrote, and then JP can join me. So let me get rid of that. Hello. And then let me get back to the piece, which still is there. There we go. So we just watched this video. And the original video lives here if you'd like to go back and watch the whole thing. So when I recreate this blog post and make it actually publishable, for whatever reason it's not publishing properly, all of these links will be in there and you can see that. So now that you've seen the 7-minute video above and you understand how much better life would be if the Mississippi River were used as a source of transportation, as opposed to railway systems or more infrastructure for highways, perhaps those who get paid to upgrade our infrastructure and keep our roadways safe and working were starting to feel nervous about all these projects that are centered around the mighty Mississippi River. With emergency funding in place due to Winter Storm Enzo, the stream of money will go straight into the pockets of those planners who claim to need our roads and highways tended to, and perhaps these projects around the Mississippi River need to come to a halt. But let's pause for a minute and think about snow. When we lived in Pittsburgh, in the middle of a dystopian city that most of you would find horrible or even call the ghetto, when the snow came, it blanketed the hillsides and rooftops and made it look quaint and magical, almost storybook. But that covered the truth of blight and disrepair and abandonment and years of inherited trauma and dysfunction, and it covered a lifetime of corruption by city, county, and state officials. So as I look out over this frozen tundra here in the Gulf Coast, in an area that should never ever experience this biting cold, because that's not how Mother Nature works, I wonder what's being hidden. What is it that we're not supposed to see? The snow is being used to cover something up. And what happens when we are locked inside? Our minds start to wander, and our curiosity gets the best of us. If they never wanted anyone to find out what was going on, or at the very least, start asking the right kind of questions, then they never should have locked us down in the first place. Those of us who can't ignore our curiosity and those of us who like to take our thoughts digitally or put pen to paper are the biggest threat to the establishment because we describe things. With New Orleans at the center of all this, with New Orleans designated as the main hub for ships to head out to other parts of the country and deliver necessary goods to the country. Practically since the country was established, can we now see why she was targeted with an alleged terrorist event on the very first day of the year? That was your signal. I was paying attention. Were you? I did mention there were other projects in Louisiana, and since we are on the topic of New Orleans right now, construction is underway on the River District near the New Orleans Ernest N. Morial Convention Center. But not everyone is happy with how the process is going. Developers say the project will transform the riverfront and bring in $1 billion a year in economic activity. It's always been believed that of all the cities in our country, New Orleans should be the heartbeat of our economy and culture, not New York. But because it lies in the South and all the controversy around what the South represents, I imagine many political and manipulated events, from terrorism to weather, have been attempts to keep her down. I started writing this piece early in the morning on January 23rd, 2025. And as I mentioned, it was difficult to grasp the reality that the place we moved to a year ago to get away from snow and icy conditions is now blanketed with a brutal cold. The surreal, unacceptable to my reality condition has only been compounded by some devastating personal news. My husband, the breadwinner of our household, and the only reason we can pay our mortgage, our car payments, our utilities, our car insurance, our homeowner's insurance, buy groceries, and stay afloat, has just been told his entire department has been eliminated or disintegrated. This comes just months after I lost half my income. Not only is he out of a job, but also his boss, other contractors, and even full-time employees who enjoyed paid vacations, paid sick time, better salary, pay raises, and nice severance packages. Basically all the things he does not qualify for since he was just a contractor. Well, they are also now unemployed. We were wondering if this day would come. As you know, I pay attention to signals, and in February of 2024, Change Healthcare told everyone they experienced a ransomware data breach. And when all employees had to suddenly stop working and hand over their laptops, while still getting a paycheck, of course, I knew something wasn't right. Optum, the company my husband contracts for, acquired Change Healthcare back in 2022, just a couple months after he started his assignment with Optum. Soon after the story of the ransomware attack in February 2024, Change Healthcare suddenly changed its name to Optum Insights, and a major department reorg took place. Then, towards the end of the year, the president of United Health Group, Brian Thompson, was apparently gunned down by Luigi Mangione in downtown New York. This was the second signal that gave me pause for thought, and I knew we should pay attention since the company my husband contracts for, Optum, is a subsidiary of United Health Group. Whether or not the story of the death of BT, as he's affectionately referred to by the well-paid managers that blunted our lives yesterday, is true or not, the signal was clear. If you're not part of the higher echelon in corporate America, you're absolutely screwed out of any stability, and there is no firm place to stand. Maybe this is why the liberals pulled out a guillotine in a city square recently and directed it at Donald Trump and his cadre of billionaire Silicon Valley mob bosses. The news of the disintegration of the department at Optum that my husband worked for and the entire team that he worked with has suddenly lent another level of surrealism to an already phantasmagorical weather event we are forced to accept. Needless to say, our realities are a little askew right now. So far, this year has been one uncanny event after another, and now the worst, most devastating news lives very squarely in our personal midst. We have a lot of responsibilities to ourselves, our lenders, our community, our ability to live in a home, and to take care of our immediate needs. But it's feeling like it's a bit too much to bear right now, especially this year has already presented with one tragic incident after another. And as of the time of this reading, it's only the 24th day of the year. We have pre-played plans to go to New Orleans, actually. So rather than stay home and sulk, we may as well go out and enjoy ourselves. We spent the money months ago to experience some culture in the city, and it's all non-refundable anyway, so we may as well just go. The cutthroat and frosty means by which the department was neutralized will surely backfire on Optum, even if they are a nearly $1 trillion corporation. I know the snow will melt, and eventually spring will come, and the sun will sustain us once again. So that's a picture of our neighborhood. Those are our trees. And so my husband's going to join now. Huh?
And the sun rising.
And the sun rising. So let me get rid of these.
You just click. Yeah, there you go.
Get rid of that one.
And then there's the X. Okay, there's us. Okay.
And here's JP.
Hi, everyone. So I have to apologize. I put your microphone on off.
I know, and you told me to turn it on, and I
was probably
I forgot.
I probably should have just turned it on and left a live mic in the house.
Yeah, right. A live mic. Oh,
a
God.
live mic in the house.
That would never be good.
Yeah, well, it happens now and then.
I know, right?
Yeah, well, given that we do the media that we do, it happens now and then. Okay, so this microphone is set up for a single user, so I will do my best to talk into it, and so will Julie. I'll try to share it as best we can. We'll get really close.
Yeah.
So very good piece.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
You read it to me earlier, and I caught some parts of it that I didn't hear the first time. So thank you for that. So for those of you, go back and re-listen if you want.
Yeah, once I can get it published.
I know, or
I don't
reread
know.
it. You know.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not publishing on Substack right now.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah,
But
and
I'll figure it out.
So I apologize to all of you out there who had to who were waiting and dealing with the technical difficulties that we've had today. That's just part and parcel of DIY
Right.
media output. So
DIY broadcasting.
DIY
Do it
broadcasting.
yourself.
Yeah, it's like Wayne's World, right?
Yeah.
So let me just bring up the ticker. So the reason I'm on is because I am still working. I am working for another couple weeks, but that ends soon, and it's time to boost our income through Book of Hours. For a while there, excuse me for a second. For a while there, we were bringing in, a good amount of money. It paid some of the bills. It made it so that we could pay for our service that we're using today, pay for our URL and the hosting that goes along with that, paid for some other services that we use, and then a little bit of extra cash. And, at a time when I was working in a situation that did not pay very well, that was not what I do for a living, but something else, it helped a lot, and people did help out. There's a few of our friends out there and supporters who really made a big difference at a time when it was really necessary. There was a moment in Pittsburgh when we were facing no heat and we had to scramble to get assistance from the county. And we're not there now, but
we will be.
We could be, and we will be.
We might be.
Yeah.
If you don't get a job right away.
Yeah. So if you have any use for a UX designer, give me a call or email me. But there's also ways you can, tip Julie for the work that she does and us. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, you think of it as, tipping or, paying a subscription for a magazine or a newspaper or any of those things. What we do here is valuable and informative. I'm sure a lot of you agree. Julie has a very unique take on things with her writing. We often discuss things before she creates a piece, but she has been connecting the dots that I have not been able to myself because I get hung up with day-to-day work stuff, and you have time to think, and you need that time to think in order to make the connections that she does. We are both creative people. We are both non-linear. What's the word I'm thinking of? Thinkers, but and big picture thinkers, but also we've been described as lateral thinkers, which allows us to pull from top, bottom, left, right as we move along and put things together. I was fascinated with the whole idea of the Mississippi River and the mouth of the Mississippi River, and how they're restoring that one swampland, which basically they're doing so it protects the urban landscape of southern Louisiana near New Orleans and Metairie and those areas. And those things are necessary. They've been taken away and they've been restored over a period of time. And a lot of people who have been exploiting that, their families have been exploiting these natural resources for so long, only to have them turn around and make them dangerous, the conditions dangerous for everybody, now need to be restored. And so I don't have a problem with that at all, even if the Army Corps of Engineers is part of it.
Yeah.
But I was fascinated with that whole story that you were, that you were talking to me about and that you incorporated into this piece.
Yeah.
This is a very unique place, this part of the world, and it's something that I didn't really know a lot about until I got here. And I believed a lot of lies about it before I got here, including lies about the natural resources and about the Gulf of Mexico. We're told by the media that there's a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico, and let me tell you, there is not a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. The seafood here is off the chart, and I'm not a seafood fan, but it's I've grown to start enjoying it,
but
right?
You're enjoying it.
And so
Yeah.
it's a very live and wonderful culture here. It's a live and wonderful environment here, and to see it dumped on like it was this last week was, I mean, we're still seeing patches of snow around the neighborhood.
It's surreal.
It was, yeah, it was just weird,
Mhm.
and heartbreaking to see some of the local animals, especially the feral cats. They're surviving, and they're doing okay. People feed them, and we have one that hangs around here. She doesn't come near us, but she sits in the sun, and she's survived. But she looks a little rough right now, and I don't know, maybe I look a little rough right now because I got some pretty shitty news yesterday. And as Julie said, and so we're appealing to you now to please support us through your donations. We don't expect this we don't expect to make a living from this. It would be nice if we could, but it takes a lot of donations, and our opinions are not the opinions that a lot of people share. And so the people who are following us, those of you, I'm talking about you, those of you who watch us, who listen, who read, and consume the content that we create. I'm talking in a very corporate manner here, but those of you who watch our stuff, to be more colloquial, understand, and you're unique people. You understand that there's more going on than meets the eye, that there's more going on than the other influencers are telling you. And we listen to a couple content creators out there who yell and scream about how they are the only ones saying what it is they're saying. And it's true. I mean, they focus on certain things that we don't, but we also focus on things that they don't. And so we are, in fact, the only ones talking about some of the stuff that we describe. And
Yeah.
we often, like when something happens like this, the first thing that I ask is, okay, what's around here, or what's around there, or what's going on in that region that would be beneficial to those who make money. In the case of the Appalachian Mountains, we discovered that there's a ton of lithium and lithium mines and lithium, around there, and quartz, both things that are required to make AI happen because of the chips that are required to make AI happen. In the case of here, I think it's what you described in the Mississippi River. If it's not that, it's something else, or the two combined. We still haven't discovered that, and it's and it's not just about shutting down economies. Yeah, that figures into it. Absolutely, it does figure into it, and they and these are the ways that allow bigger corporations and players to wedge themselves in and get into place. Now, around here, we have a lot of entertainment moving in, and have for the last 30, 35 years. There's a lot of casinos. In fact, weirdly enough, well, before I say that, and they contribute to the economy here and to the work, people have jobs. Okay. They're better than some of the other jobs that are, like, say, in Pittsburgh, where we used to live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The biggest irony of all is that the Beau Rivage casino in Biloxi, Mississippi, pretty much is responsible for keeping downtown Biloxi safe and not washed away because
During
it's
Katrina.
during Katrina,
Yeah.
because it took the brunt of the storm, the water coming in, the storm surge, and it basically saved downtown Biloxi because downtown Biloxi lives in sort of its shadow, not literally, but if it were a taller building, it would certainly overshadow. And so it's part of the culture here now,
People
and
are okay with it.
and people are okay with it. And even though it does block some of the views, it's part of the landscape here now.
Mhm.
And so I believe that, that economy is sort of helping boost living standards here, but also protecting us from, or at least I think protecting us from some of these interventions and these changes that are, what did you call those people? The people behind the weather.
The resetters.
The resetters. Thank you. That's a great term.
Mhm.
Um,
That's what they are. Yeah.
so,
I'm sure other people have used it too.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm just commenting on Julie's piece, but I think that, the value that she brings to you as viewers and those of you who just listen, I'm sure is something special. And, there are different ways that you can support us. You can use Cash App. You can use Patreon and give us a regular monthly stipend or donation. Right now, we don't have
stuff in the mail.
We've never, or you can send us stuff in the mail, and you can email us at info@book-of-hours.com, and you can get our address and you can send us something. You can use PayPal if you like. And so along those lines, unlike other, influencers or content creators out there, we don't have a lot of special extra stuff for you. And what we've found is that you, our audience, aren't looking for that, which is awesome because we don't really know what else to give you. But what we've found is that you don't care about tchotchkes or bumper stickers or even t-shirts. We have merch on our website that you can buy. But that's not what you're into. What you're into is what we do. Real conversations. Thank you. And break in here. I've got the microphone, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just spent the last hour reading. But yeah, I think that in this time when social media has overtaken lives and we're not sure what's real and what's not anymore, I'm finding that the more people that are watching, me and watching us walk away sort of feeling nourished, feeling like they've just had like a really, like the equivalent of like a healthy meal or something like that, because we're real, what is Trish saying?
Trish said, you want to put it up?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you know how to do it?
Yeah, show and stream. You are both so brilliant and generous. Yes, you are supported, and we'll soon discover how much. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not gonna lie, like the news of JP's entire department being eliminated yesterday was in the middle of sitting in this frozen tundra where I was already having a hard time with reality, especially with the pain. So I mentioned the pain in my piece that I wrote. I have an autoimmune illness, and so the pain just rips through me like knives cutting through my joints and my muscles and bones. And it was extraordinary yesterday for some reason. It was worse than I've ever felt it. And so I knew it had something to do with the weather. So I was dealing with that. I was trying to write the piece. And then we got the devastating news that how we pay our mortgage and how we live has been compromised because his department was eliminated.
even my supervisor is gone.
Yeah, even his direct manager is gone. Like the whole thing has been eliminated. And I think one of the most infuriating aspects of this is that one of the other contractors that we've sort of become friendly with, he lives in Georgia. And all of these workers and contractors, they all work remotely. They're from all over the world. Georgia, obviously, Biloxi, New Jersey, India, Ireland, all over the world, right? One of them, his agency, who signed him up to work at this job around the same time that JP was signed up with his agency to work at the job, his agency made him get the shot in order to take the job. So this guy who took the shot in order to have a job is now out of the job that made him take the shot to begin with. Not only that, his wife is occasionally in a wheelchair and he has a small daughter. Like, how are these people going to survive? When we spoke to him yesterday, he's like, oh, no, don't worry, Julie and JP, I'll be fine. I'm like, I don't know. You had to stick your arm out and get jabbed for something that did this to you, that took away your only source of income. This is terrible. So, and then one of his other co-workers, also a contractor,
Mhm.
had a brand new baby that was in the NICU, in the intensive care unit for newborns for weeks, I guess.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
imagine
I think at least 3 weeks.
the cost of that. And to just eliminate the whole department without even thinking. The kind of people that eliminated the department are the kind of people that have never had to look for work. They've been perpetually employed their whole careers. They don't know what it's like to be on the precipice of losing everything that you've worked so hard for.
Mhm.
So it's very cruel.
Yeah, it is. It is very cruel, and that's the corporate landscape. And the other thing that I find really very troubling in our culture today, and I discovered this before when we were living in San Francisco, again in Pittsburgh, and again now, is the huge gulf between just average jobs, even jobs that you might need a degree for, like say a marketing coordinator or marketing director or something at a nonprofit or a city organization or small business. The gulf in pay between what jobs are out there for people who may only have a high school diploma and those who are in the corporate world, who are considered professionals. And I'm certainly not at a high level in the corporate world, but my rate of pay compared to other jobs that you see around, we were looking at city jobs and state jobs and just, trying to get a sense of the landscape out there, is so huge. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this. It is so huge that I'm appalled. And what's even more appalling is that gap, that gulf between, say, me and somebody who works at a Target is nothing compared to what's between me and the CEO of United Health Group,
Or the person who just eliminated your
or
department.
the person who eliminated my. Yeah, I mean, they probably are twice what I make,
At least.
Yeah. And so
yeah,
this the unfairness of, I'm not a huge labor supporter. I don't agree with unions, and I know that there's a lot of corruption and things that go along with that, and that's why I don't disagree with organizing. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the hierarchy and the corruption and the bullshit that goes along with unions. However, the unfairness of labor relations in the United States is off the chart. It's probably where it was before unions became legitimized, because there was a time when unions actually had gunfights with federal soldiers, right? And the labor market has been chipped away at over the course of my lifetime, to where what my father dealt with as just an ordinary employee, non-union employee, had much more available to him, and a way, and a life work balance, and days off, and sick pay, and insurance, and benefits, far greater than most people have today. You know, he was employed in the 70s, and he ended up becoming a small business owner in the 80s and 90s. But in the 70s, when he was working, he had a far greater situation at hand than people have today. And you know, I've been a contractor, which is, you know, another way of corporations just basically making it an unfair labor market out there, because they won't hire you directly. They'll hire you as a contractor with the little false promise of, well, then we might convert you to being full-time employee, and then, you know, then you can get the benefits.
That doesn't happen anymore. It used to happen in the 90s and in the 2000s, where it was pretty normal that if you walk into an office and you're a temporary employee or a contractor for 3 months, that you were automatically hired into the corporation that you were contracting with or temping for. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, you know, and this has been happening all my life. I mean, the one job that I really started making decent money with, which is nothing compared to what I make, you know, what people in the corporations, you know, work, or the people I worked with at the time were making. Came in as a temporary employee. I was a file clerk. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, they want you to be on, you know, on a more permanent level. And I thought that I actually got hired by the company. I was this naive, but it was a long time ago. I was in my 20s. And it turned out that I was just an external contractor. I wasn't so I didn't get bonuses. I didn't get vacation time. I didn't get sick leave.
And you still, to this day,
you know, and
the job that you just had with
so
the department that they just eliminated.
So I've been in and out of contract work since my 20s. So I guess what I'm trying to say is
by choice.
And not by choice. This isn't something that I ever wanted. I have had long-term full-time work. But again, these things, they go away because of the whim of a manager, or because the company decides that they're just not making enough profits for their shareholders, or whatever the case may be. They don't care about lives. They don't care about the people who contribute to their businesses, the knowledge base, and the capital through people that they have. They don't care about that. They will do away with it if it makes more money for their shareholders. And that is just sick. And so I feel like we're coming to a culmination of all of that negative growth in the labor relations, and that they can't go anywhere from here. And that's why they're getting rid of people and bringing in AI, because AI works for virtually free. Well, at least free enough. They don't need it. AI doesn't need vacations or sick leave or insurance. It needs a server, and it needs, like, you know, maybe a couple people to manage it. And that's about it. So, you know, everybody is going to be facing this. And this is why everybody is so against AI. You told me this on Twitter, that, like, it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
They're against this shit.
Yeah, everybody is coming together from all, whether you're liberal and voted, you know, for Clinton or Kamala or Biden, or whether you're conservative or Republican and voted for Trump and you know, whatever. Everybody across the board is against artificial intelligence, and is totally against the fact that Trump just handed over $500 billion to artificial intelligence projects instead of handing it over to $500 billion. Oh my goodness. You know, that might be able to pay off our mortgage.
Oh yeah.
You know, if 100 people donated $100, we could pay our mortgage for 6 months. And it might take that long for JP to find another job. I would hope not. But
it's happened before, though,
you know,
where it's been 6 months.
It's really, really tough out there. So anything you guys can do to help, send us an email, info@book-of-hours.com. If you don't like using PayPal, I mean, we still use PayPal, even though I don't, I know who's behind it and I know who created it. And I've been critical of it in the past because I hate David Sachs and I hate Peter Thiel. The fact is we do use it. We have been, in the past, years ago, people donated to us through PayPal and it was enormously helpful. And it was very easy to get access to the donations.
Right.
So
And we have a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
and more than just what's going across the ticker there. There's something called Buy Me a Coffee, and we have that on our link tree, even on our website.
mhm.
I think, let's see if we have something in our,
Do we have a link tree?
let's see what that one is. That's just our website.
Yeah. You can type in the first 3 digits of Linktree and it will populate in a new tab and you can just pull it
Share it,
out,
yeah.
pull it down.
Okay.
But yeah, there's different ways to support. The best way I think is PayPal, or becoming a patron. You can even donate through Substack. I know last year when I was trying to navigate through Substack, you guys probably saw it, but last year somebody did donate through Substack for us, and that was super helpful. So
Let me share the screen.
So we're still kind of, processing all of this. So we're going to have to get really creative
Yeah.
if we want to keep our dream home,
Right. So
and which is also acts as our studio for me to do these Friday readings. And
exactly.
stuff.
So at the top is where you can find us. You can find us on Blue Sky, on Book of Hours, on our website, Blog of Hours, the Book of Hours Substack, which Julie just read from, YouTube, which you're probably watching us on, Twitter. You can find both of us there. I'm Book of Hours JP. Julie is Book of Hours Julie. She's known as Julie Miss Ruley, and I am Jean-Paul Collin. Let's see. Rumble, Rockfin, Getter, Cloud Hub, Patreon. So you can see you can contribute through Patreon, Patreon, PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Cash App. So there's a lot of different ways that you can help us with tipping us, giving us some regular funds through Patreon or just a one-time donation.
And if you don't like doing anything electronically, we have an address. We'll take checks.
Yeah. So just email us and we'll get to that.
We'll take pennies.
So for those of you watching where we don't have chat, it's info. Again, I'm going to repeat it. Info. That's INFO at book BOOK dash. That's a character. OF for of dash hours OURS.com. So info at book-of-hours.com.
Yeah.
And so we accept donations that way. All right, I'm gonna hide that.
It's not my favorite thing,
Yeah, I told Julie, it's like, well, we'll do a pledge drive.
Yeah.
And so, so we're nowhere near what PBS is asking for. We're nowhere near what NPR is asking for, or any of these other. We don't hide our content behind a paywall. Okay,
That's right.
We could do that.
We could, but
we looked into it and it's difficult.
Yeah.
And it costs money. So we don't do that because we are who we are, and we are very direct with you, our viewers, and those who like our content. Like I said before, you are special people because you like engaging with us. You enjoy what we bring to you. It gives you a new perspective that you don't find anywhere else. Nobody else is talking about what we talk about. And we're highly unique. And I'm not just bragging. I'm saying this outright. Mm-hmm. Nobody else talks about what we talk about. And it's not because we're freaks and evil geniuses or even like narcissistic people who think we're better than everyone else. That's not the case at all. We listen to other people. We get ideas from other people, but generally we get ideas from each other,
Right.
and we investigate and discuss things together before we present it to you, because I always want to know why. I don't care about the how and the niggly details and the rabbit holes. I don't care about that. I'm a conceptual thinker, and we are both big thinkers. We think, in big picture stuff and high level, and we want to know why it's happening, not how it's happening, because the why is what affects you the most. How they're doing it, yeah, sure. If you're interested in that, that's fine. And we've talked about the how before. But you always, and in all cases, we are not absolutely 100% correct. We speculate based on what we know.
Right.
And our experience. And
Mhm.
as you witnessed in Julie's piece here today, she started investigating what is going on in the Gulf Coast region that might be the reason why we got a snowstorm. Now, the other thing that's frustrating is with this weather weaponization is that, yeah, there was a snowstorm in this region 100 and maybe 50 years ago. I don't know how long ago that was. 130 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, it's possible. It snowed in San Francisco around the same time.
That's 3 lifetimes ago.
So
though.
what was going on in the environment that allowed for a snowstorm to happen in New Orleans and one to happen in San Francisco around the same time? Not maybe the same year, but around the same period of time. Was it, did the atmosphere get cold suddenly because there was an eruption in a volcano somewhere? I don't know. I'd have to investigate that. But I'm not, I don't care, right? What I'm caring about right now is right now, and it's come as a series of events related to weather and natural looking events like fires, floods, snowstorms, and like ultra cold weather that has engulfed like a whole, like from, Wisconsin all the way down to New Orleans, right?
Even Florida.
And Florida, but this swath of land from
Yeah.
the Mississippi to the East Coast and the border of with Canada all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, got suddenly cold, and snowstorm hit a place that normally that just doesn't get snow. Okay, it does snow inland Mississippi. They do have the signs up that say, bridges freeze before the road does, so conditions may be slippery. I thought that was odd, but when you get inland and go north a bit within the state, this is a very tall state. It goes all the way to the border of Tennessee. It will get cold up there, right? But down here, well, this is subtropical. This is like Southern California, man. It's not supposed to get that cold, and it's not supposed to snow.
Yeah.
So this is very weird, and it's very troubling. And so we always want to find out the why this happened. And we still don't know for sure. But our speculation, I think, Julie's investigation and the speculation, I think, is spot on. I think that there's something to this. And I also want to mention, she mentioned this, I've mentioned this, regions. And how regions are being discussed rather than states, and the whole idea of regional state compacts. Go back to our video called Deconstruction, where we actually talk about the South, and we talk about state compacts and how this is part of a more globalization effort, that state compacts or regional compacts are part of the global, regional, local sort of governance. So global governance is part of this, okay? And so a lot of these things all feed in, and I'm not going to talk about, the globalists and all that. It's enough to call them resetters, because I don't know what the deep state is. I don't know who's behind a lot of these things and what's going on. I personally think that there's a lot of different factions fighting with each other, but I don't care about the conspiracy ideas around the old names and the all these different the Club of Rome or whatever the fuck that is, or the Black Royalty or any of this shit, right? There's a lot of people out there talking about that stuff, and I don't care about that stuff because it doesn't affect me. I can't track it to that. I can only speculate on what's going on and why it's happening.
Right.
And what I can
That's not
see.
why we're having trouble paying our mortgage.
And that's not why we're having trouble paying our mortgage today. From here
We're
on
just
out.
looking at corporate greed and corporate overreach, and this, like you talked about, the vast separation, the gulf between, what people just 2 levels above you make versus what you make. Is
And
just,
then the people who I deal
it's
with on a
just-
daily basis, whether they're in a cafe, a Target, or gas station,
right.
it's disgusting.
Yeah.
How much different how much of a difference the pay is.
Yeah. They
It's
should be getting
disgusting.
paid better all around. Anyway, we are looking at all sorts of ways to bring in an income. So, and obviously, your donation will help, but we're not counting on just that. That might help put food on the table and pay our electricity bills so we can keep running. But we're also looking at other ways to bring in an
So we
income.
need to pay for our electricity. We need to pay our gas so we can keep ourselves warm or cool in the winter or the summer for the electricity. But the electricity also keeps our internet on, and we need connectivity through our internet connection. So we need to pay for that, and we need to pay for our hosting so that we can maintain an email address that you can email to us to find out what our address is,
or
to send
people
us a
can
check.
email you because you're going to be looking
or for work, So
Yeah.
those are 3 major things that don't seem all that important, but they are.
Yeah.
They keep us talking to you, and they keep us going and allowing us to express our discoveries that we find out there in the world, and keep that dialogue open between us and you, and and vice versa.
Ooh, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us today. Today is Friday, January 24th.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be back on Friday, January 31st to give you more updates, and also to find, to find something else that I think would be relevant to what we're experiencing as we continue the Great Reset. We're going to, I listened to you on New Year's Eve, and you encouraged me to get off certain social media platforms, which I did. It saved my mental health. You both are incredible leaders. Wow. Thank you for that. That's an enormous endorsement, and I could feel it. I don't mean to be woo, but I can feel these things when people are influenced or feel like they're brave enough to step out of their comfort zones and take that chance. Getting, like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, even before I started reading, getting off of social media is actually a lot harder than not taking a shot, believe it or not. So that's huge. That's really brave of you. And I'm utterly honored by your comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
As you can see in the background behind Julie, it's Mardi Gras. So,
there's a few bees hanging around.
So, it's a joyful time of year in this region.
I know.
So we're not going to let ourselves get dragged down with this, but
too dragged down. Yeah.
But keep, stay tuned.
Yeah.
And we'll keep working, and we'll keep working at getting work and all of that. So
thank you so much for tuning in, and please tune in next week. I'll be back for another Friday reading on January 31st, and we'll probably have more updates. So, and thank you, JP, for joining me during the last half. It was getting a little hard there to deal with all the technical interruptions.
Yeah, and we apologize for that.
It's
we learn these things as we go. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care.
Take care, and we'll see you on Friday the 31st.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You can help us continue our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Book of Hours, or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/Book of Hours. or you can use Cash App. Thank you.